One more from O'Malley. He says,
what's going on, everyone? This is Benjamin Dixon with the Benjamin Dixon Show, and it has become yet again necessary for me to make a video on Bernie Sanders, Black Lives Matter, and Netroot Nations, and what happened this past weekend. I'm making an additional video to address Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks, everyone's favorite progressive online, right? Great show, great host, great network. I'm a fan. Not a fan. I admire what they do. And I am a fan of Bernie Sanders. And I don't think I can convey that in a way sufficient enough not to still get a lot of hate from some Bernie Sanders fans, which we're on a side note. Some people have brought it to my attention that there are a lot of trolls out there who are going underneath the guise of Bernie Sanders fans, but I'll do that video on another day. I want to address the fact that Cenk wanted to lecture Black Lives Matter because of the means and the method by which they protested Bernie Sanders.
none of this looks good. If you care about this movement, I don't think that today's the day you celebrate and go, got him, okay? I wish this helped, but I really don't think it did.
But one of the things he said was that Bernie Sanders isn't the enemy.
Bernie Sanders is not your enemy.
Well, first of all, they didn't protest because they see those progressive Democratic candidates as enemies. They protested there because they see them as the people who represent most closely their ideology. And now they wanted to make sure that these people who are going to need and want their vote in the future are prepared to discuss the issue of Black Lives Matter. As far as when they did it, you tell me when was going to be a more appropriate time. The urgency for Black Lives Matter is now. And again, let me make it clear, like I did in my other video, I'm not a representative of Black Lives Matter. They have their entire movement. They're mobilized. They're organized. They have people who are out doing the actual work. I'm just a political observer. And what I don't understand is how, no, I think I do understand. A lot of you are missing a very significant paradigm shift in the progressive caucus. You're missing the fact that Black Lives Matter does not need your approval, does not need your permission, does not need your pat on the back, doesn't need you to give them the okay. They don't care if you disapprove of their tactics. They don't care if you disapprove of their message. The reason none of that is relevant to them is because they are keenly aware of one thing. Your candidate needs their vote. Period. And I think what's going on is that so many of you are getting caught up in your reverence and your love for Bernie Sanders, which I'm a fan. I like Bernie, but I'm not so wrapped up in the euphoria of Feel the Burn that I don't realize that there's a political contingency to be reckoned with in 2016. And that contingency is Black Lives Matter. So it doesn't matter that Bernie Sanders isn't the enemy. It matters that he is our friend, and he was not prepared to speak on the most urgent issue of our day. Now, you can categorize other things as being more urgent. Economic factors are important, but what difference does that make if we're dying? Right? If people were getting killed in the manner in which we see them getting killed by the police, and we see the video from Sandra Bland, there is urgency there. So this should be a priority such that if they had to change in the middle of their presentation, they should have had some answers. And so here's another thing. He said that this is Cenk. Cenk said, well, they should have given him time to speak. They didn't even let him speak. That's a
Nobody got to hear the candidates. Nobody got to even really effectively hear their position on this issue.
You know, you're caught up in your feelings, Cenk, because they gave Bernie Sanders way more time to speak, and Bernie Sanders hunkered down, got stubborn, and said at the very beginning, I'm going to talk about what I came to talk about.
What's happening here? I would love for you to actually talk about this in specifics, not the usual political stuff.
So let me talk about what I want to talk about for a moment.
You know, he went off talking about his political revolution, his economic revolution, and completely dismissed the immediate urgency of the moment. So they gave him a chance to speak, and he did not take advantage of it. He missed the opportunity. What happened on Saturday was his problem, was his fault, and rightfully so. There's a lot of Bernie Sanders fans who were upset on Saturday, and now they're coming to the realization that, you know what, Bernie should have handled that differently. He should have been ready to address it. And when the young lady, I want you to watch this little clip, and Cenk, you can see the emotion in Cenk, and he's upset because someone dared to challenge Bernie Sanders. I don't care, I don't have any love for, I don't have any love for Martin O'Malley, but, Bernie Sanders, he's not the enemy. Watch this little clip.
I came away with the impression that, they have a lot of homework to do. And I hope that they're ready to, really sit down and listen and talk to these communities, right, and come up and build their platform with these communities.
They got a lot of homework to do, but I would challenge you and say you got a lot of homework to do.
No, Cenk, I think you need to do your homework and not get so wrapped up in the euphoria of Bernie Sanders, because you're missing the point. Right now, Hillary Clinton is massacring Martin O'Malley and Bernie Sanders in the minority vote. Just devastating it. If you guys want the minority vote, which you will need to win in the primaries, you need to realize that no one is coming seeking your approval. No one cares if you don't approve of their tactics, their methodology, their protest. You need to realize no one is asking you for anything anymore. You have to deal with the contingency that is with the political force that is Black Lives Matter. Because realize this, if they decide to sit down and not vote, or even worse, go out and vote against your candidate loses. Black Lives Matter, they know this. They understand this. And so they are operating in their with their political capital, which they should, which is Democracy 101. You don't have to like it. You don't have to approve of it. You don't have to pat them on the back. You don't have to give them the thumbs up. You can be furious and pissed off, which I can see in the presentation that Cenk is a little flustered because someone dared to interrupt the beloved Bernie Sanders. It's like, they lost it because they revere this man so much, and now they're not looking through this. They're not looking at this through the lens of political analysis. Political analysis is should tell you that candidates must bring Black Lives Matter issues to the front. That does mean that some other issues are going to go secondary, and that should be okay. For two reasons. One, because people are dying, but then two, because if you want their vote, you are going to have to acquiesce. You are going to have to give concessions. Concessions are not voluntarily, happily, and willingly. That's why they're called concessions. You give them up. So realize this. You need Black Lives Matter. And so if Black Lives Matter tells you you need to address this issue, you don't pontificate about your revolution. You don't go off in platitudes and generalities like Martin O'Malley did. You don't go off on your economic diatribe like Bernie Sanders did. You recognize that this is a politically important moment and you capitalize on it. Simple question. How do you think Joe Biden would have handled that situation? Joe Biden would have called all the protesters up to the stage. He would have shifted gears right in the middle of it because one of two reasons. Either he sincerely believes it, which is great idealistically, right? It's great to have to identify with something and love it from a very sincere perspective. But if nothing else, he is politically astute to know that he needs their vote, and so he's going to have to give up some concessions. Bernie Sanders was not prepared on Saturday to handle that. Martin O'Malley clearly was not prepared to handle that. And when Tia also, I believe, Oslo said that they need to go home and do their homework. Well, the truth of the matter is, instead of trying to throw that back at her, Cenk, a little rhetorical jujitsu there. No, the fact is they do need to go to do their homework. They need to have clearly outlined policies that they are going to present for criminal justice reform in general, but addressing the systemic racism that Black people face and the brutality that Black men and women face at the hands of the police on a regular basis. Now, the problem with some progressives is they just don't believe that we face that type of injustices. And that is going to be the challenge for the Democratic Party of 2016. It should be a piece of cake to beat the clown card that is the Republican nominees. But if you cannot embrace the needs and the demands of Black Lives Matter, then an entire swath of your voting bloc, is going to sit down on progressives. Is it a ugly reality? Yes, but it is politics 101. And if people who love Bernie would get out of their feelings and stop being so dismayed that people had the nerve to challenge the omnipotent and the ever-loving Bernie Sanders, if you would just get out of those feelings, you would realize we have to play ball with this political contingency, and that must be reckoned with. We have to listen to and address the issues that are important to Black Lives Matter. That's just as pragmatic and realistic as it can get. You guys can argue about it. You can debate about it down in the comment section. But it still does not change the fact that Black Lives Matter is not asking you for anything anymore. They're telling you this is what you must do if you want our vote. And that's the way it should be.